All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Apologize for a bit of the later video today. Had a bit of a busy day with classes and everything, but certainly a big day tonight in sports. And yesterday was huge with all of the NBA action, a lot of things going down. As I said, yesterday's video kind of have a better idea of what the playoff picture is going to look like even today. And that has been the case. We kind of do have a better idea of what things are looking like as the first games of the night are about to get started in around a half hour or so. But what was big about last night is that the Miami Heat secured a playoff berth. They become the seventh team in the Eastern Conference, the 10th team overall to lock up their spot in the playoffs. So that is also big in the regard that their victory put them with a three-way tie with them, the Washington Wizards, and the Milwaukee Bucks. So as it's lining up right now, Miami actually stands as the 6. The Wizards are the 7, and the Bucks are the 8. So still some things to be determined, of course, but that is one of those things that has to be looked at as far as our team's going to be maneuvering around to get a favorable matchup. But it's kind of hard to do that unless you're the 7 or the 8. But even then, Toronto and Boston with the 1 and 2 is still not settled. Both the Raptors and the Celtics lost last night. They play each other tonight in Toronto. And I'm looking to get an update on if Terry Rozier will be active for that game tonight. Last night, Terry Rozier was out for the Celtics. They played without an NBA point guard. Kadeem Allen got his first career NBA start. And the Celtics lost by 4, 106 to 102, the score there. So certainly still a lot of contributions coming from the other pieces on that team, most notably guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the two pieces that were both third overall picks and have been so integral to Boston's success this year. But tonight, they're playing in a very hostile environment. It's very tough to beat the Raptors in Toronto. Toronto has lost 3 of their last 5 games, and the Celtics looking to pick up a win tonight that would bring them within a game of the Raptors for the 1 seed. But most importantly, all the Celtics would have to do to secure said 1 seed would be to tie with the Raptors if they win tonight. Considering that the tiebreaker would then favor the Celtics, as they are currently 2-1 against Toronto on the season. So it'll be a really challenging game for Boston. They, of course, want to put themselves in the best positioning, but with them still not knowing what Kyrie Irving's status is going to be. And they have stated that they're not going to rush him back. I think the Celtics at this point, with all the injuries that they've dealt with this season, are certainly really trying to make sure that they are fully geared up for next year. But with that being said, the team, and I think Danny Ainge realizes this too, is still too good to completely ignore what they have ahead of them. So of course, Kyrie, looking to be as close to 100% and healthy as possible. We still don't know if that's going to be at the beginning of the first round, which is, a little over a week from today, actually 10 days from today. Is the start of the playoffs. So is he going to be ready in 10, 11 days, or is it going to be the middle of the first round? I don't think that the Celtics are going to rush him back. So as far as optimizing your matchup, out of those 3 teams that I'm looking at, if I'm the Boston Celtics, there are things that make each one of those teams difficult to play in a playoff series, whether you're looking at the Wizards, the Heat, or the Bucks. But to me, if I'm the Celtics, I want to avoid the Washington Wizards in the first round if you don't have Kyrie Irving. I mean, I really like Terry Rozier. I think he's more than capable of even beating the Wizards, but I think that matchup just poses an extreme difficulty for the first round if the Celtics are without Kyrie Irving for some or all of that potential series. And I think that that's what the Wizards want. I think the Wizards really have a sour taste in their mouth from the 7-game series that happened last year with the Boston Celtics, a very entertaining series, one of the better ones of the playoffs, and a series that they really felt that they should have won. You look back, especially at those first 2 games in Boston in that series where the Wizards opened up game 1 16-0 and ended up losing. In game 2 had held a double-digit lead for the majority of the game, and then let that go away in the fourth quarter, and Isaiah Thomas scores 53, and then you look to them getting blown out in game 5, and then game 7, John Wall running out of gas in the fourth quarter. They know that they can play with the Celtics. And even though there's only 4 returning players from the team that did that to them last year, it is Brad Stevens. It is still that team. And I think that there's that psychological hump that John Wall and Bradley Beal and that team want to get over and need to get over. I think the Wizards have been really talented for a long time. And while this year they're not really tooled to go to the conference final, which is something that they have yet to do, and last year looked to be their year that they could do it, it doesn't look like this year is going to be the year for them. But with that being said, I think a matchup against the Celtics without Kyrie Irving is something that the Washington Wizards are really, really hoping for. But if you end up as a 6 seed, you don't quite know who you're playing at because of how close the Cavs and the 76ers are to one another. And the Sixers certainly are looking for that 3 seed because of the big man matchup. If they don't have Joel Embiid and he's matched up, or that position is matched up against Miles Turner, that is going to make things rather difficult for the Philadelphia 76ers. But with that just being an orbital fracture, I would think that Joel Embiid will be ready and will be playing in their first round series. So that'll of course be really interesting, but I think you got to give the Sixers so much credit. I mean, with the crazy streak that they're on, first of all, I mean, I think that blows my mind enough to begin with. I mean, if we're talking double-digit streaks with the Sixers, you're used to seeing them losing 16 or 17 games in a row, but now they've won 11 in a row, and they're still a half game behind Cleveland, who has won 9 of their last 10. So those two teams still firmly in a battle for that 3 seed, and you know Cleveland is certainly looking at that. You know, they fall to the 4 seed. They end up playing Toronto in the second round if that happens. But then they end up playing Boston in the second round if Boston ends up winning their series. And they'd likely have Kyrie Irving back at that point. So those are all things to consider if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers. But looking at what their remaining schedule is, they have 4 games left, and they play the Sixers on Friday. So that is huge for Cleveland to, you know, and obviously even bigger for Philadelphia. And that's in Philadelphia. It's a huge game. Sixers have probably had that marked on their calendar for a long time. And that's one to where if you're Cleveland, you kind of got to win that. They play the Wizards at home tomorrow night, and then they close the season with a home against the Knicks. So you would have to think that the Cavs would be in pretty good shape for those 2 games. But then when you're comparing that with their rest of the season and what the Philadelphia 76ers have on their plate on top of the game that they will be playing the Cleveland Cavaliers in, because most teams have 4 or 5 games. The Sixers, one of them that have 5. So the Sixers, on top of playing the Cavs on Friday, play the Pistons tonight in Detroit. They play the Mavericks in Dallas on Sunday, the Hawks in Atlanta on Tuesday, and then they close the season against the Milwaukee Bucks on Wednesday. So, I mean, you know, Cleveland's a tough game. Milwaukee's a winnable game. But other than that, I mean, the Sixers look to be in good position, whereas the Cavs, you know, they have the 2 games against the Knicks, but the Wizards will certainly be playing to win tomorrow night against the Cavaliers. It'll be really interesting to see how all of those things shake out. And then you look at the Western Conference, which won't get a lot of shuffling tonight, but the Pelicans are playing an incredibly important game against the Memphis Grizzlies that they absolutely have to win. Considering the Pelicans, after it looked like they were going to give the 3 seed a run for the money, the Pelicans have all of a sudden lost 4 in a row and are only a half game into a playoff spot above the Denver Nuggets and only a game and a half above the LA Clippers, who are still both very much so in the playoff race, and that's why only 3 teams have clinched. So right now, Utah and San Antonio are tied. Utah holds the 4, San Antonio currently the 5, Oklahoma City the 6, Minnesota the 7, and they are a half game ahead of New Orleans the 8. So New Orleans, of course, really, really needing to pick up a win tonight. And once again, stick by my claim that I think this first round in both conferences is going to be more exciting this year. I don't think there's any givens. I think teams I think the potential matchups that we're seeing for the first round in both conferences kind of prove that the talent differential isn't as big as it usually is in most years, and that we're probably going to be getting some pretty entertaining basketball out of it, which is, of course, what everybody wants to see and hear. So that's pretty much what's going on in the NBA. Not a whole lot tonight. The Spurs are in action. They're playing the Lakers. They are, of course, looking to do what they can to lock up a playoff spot for the 20th straight year. I think it would be now, or 21 maybe. Raptors and the Celtics, of course, a big game tonight. Grizzlies, Pelicans. The Heat play the Hawks. The Heat, of course, secured their playoff berth yesterday. Mavericks and the Magic in a lottery battle, and then the Sixers playing the Pistons. So that's pretty much all we have in the NBA tonight. And in baseball, we already had some games go on today. Yesterday, a lot going on. Shohei Ohtani, how about him? In his first at-bat at Angels Stadium, cranks one out of the ballpark. Angels ended up winning in a landslide, 13-2 over the Indians. They're currently in action right now, and that was a big story, and I think there was so much confusion just because of all the hype that surrounded Shohei Ohtani. I mean, we're looking at somebody that legitimately looked like Babe Ruth and was doing those kinds of things in Japan. And now to see him come here, pick up a win in a start where he looked really good and all of his pitches had an incredible amount of movement on it, to then him going to the plate and able to, knock one out right away. I think that's really impressive. And I think it really goes to show how entertaining this sport's going to continue to be over time. A lot of fun to see that happen. And actually, around 20 minutes ago, Shohei Ohtani actually hit another home run. And he homered off of Corey Kluber this time with 1 on and 2 out in the game that's going on right now. That game is currently tied at 2. But Ohtani, of course, a designated hitter. He's hitting .455 so far in his limited amount of plate appearances. And, he already gets a second homer in as many nights. So that is really incredible, taking a look at what was been going on there. So I think the hype, at least so far, looks to be justified. It's obviously way too early to say if it was real or not, but I think at least we are seeing why that was the case. This man is very, very, very legitimate talent. A lot of fun to watch. We do have 4 finals already across the MLB. The Yankees beat the Rays 7-2. There was some noise about Giancarlo Stanton striking out all 5 times, going 0 for 5 at the plate yesterday. He ends up hitting a homer in his first at bat in this one, so that's big. The Rays fall to 1-5. The Yankees now 4-2. The Braves, they're 4-2. They beat the Nationals 7-1. Max Scherzer giving up a 3-run homer in that game. He picks up his first loss. His ERA is still at 1.64 through his first 2 starts after stymieing the Reds in his season debut. The Mets ended up beating the Phillies 4-2 in the first game broadcast on Facebook for the year. The Phillies are 1-4. The Mets are the inverse. Robert Gsellman picking up his first win of the season. Jerry's Familia with his 3rd save. The Astros top the Orioles 3-2. Baltimore starts the year 1-5. Houston, unsurprisingly, 6-1. Brad Peacock the win. The Dodgers, they start off 2-5. They were 1 hit by Patrick Corbin and the Arizona Diamondbacks, who ended up picking up a 3-0 victory. The Diamondbacks are now 5-1. Corbin goes 7 1/3 of 1 hit, 1 walk ball, 12 strikeouts, 98 pitches, an incredible performance. And we really saw a lot of flashes of what that guy is capable of in 2013. He had an outstanding year. He was an all-star, dealt with a lot of injuries since then. And then today, against a pretty good lineup that hasn't shown it too much so far, has an outstanding start in one of the most hitter-friendly parks really ever. Archie Bradley and Brad Boxberger ended up completing it, but 3-0 win for Arizona, just 1 hit for the Dodgers. Diamondbacks are very legitimate. I really, really like that team. I like their bullpen. The rotation is solid. And I mean, their lineup goes without saying is top to bottom, really, really tough to stop. So they will be a lot of fun to watch throughout the season. I think already making the statement that the NL West is going to be interesting. We see what the Rockies have been doing, and the Rockies made a big front office move today, extending Charlie Blackmon to a 6-year contract. So he is locked up long term. Colorado, of course, one of the cornerstones of that lineup. Rockies will be playing in San Diego tonight. John Gray against Clayton Richard. The Rangers will play the A's in Oakland. That's Doug Fister and Sean Manaea. Cardinals and the Brewers in Milwaukee. Carlos Martinez and Ulysses Chassin. The Mariners and the Giants from AT&T Park, King Felix and Johnny Cueto in a really good matchup. White Sox and the Blue Jays, that's Carson Fulmer and Aaron Sanchez. And of course, right now, Indians and Angels in action. They're tied at 2 in the bottom of the 7th. The Pirates are up 2-0 on Minnesota in the bottom of the 2nd. The Pirates 4-0. They're looking to make it 5-0 today with another victory at home. And they have the early lead so far. So just after all of that, quick look at what I'll be doing for a channel in the relative near future, I guess. Of course, as I've alluded to in some of my previous videos, I certainly plan on doing series preview videos for the NBA playoffs. I'll probably start doing them once a series is like sure to happen. So, for example, like right now, Houston and Golden State have the 1 and 2 seeds clinched respectively. Once we figure out who the 7 or the 8 will be, I'll do that. And in the Eastern Conference, same thing. But I'll probably upload multiple of those in one day leading up to the playoffs, considering the last day of the season is a week from today. And then the first day of the playoffs is at Saturday, the 14th. So I'll likely be uploading multiple videos unless we get a lot of situations to where the matchups are secured earlier on. But I'm, of course, really excited for that. I'll probably do a few play-by-play calls on here, but I'll likely just I'll try to do audio only, like put something up, or even if I have to, just throw something in front of my webcam because that's distracting. You obviously want to be watching the game and not my face talking about the game when it's going on. But that is something that I'll likely try to do. Is do the live play-by-play calls of a few playoff games. And as the season goes on, I'll probably do it for baseball too, potentially even the Stanley Cup playoff games as well. May call a few of those because that is, of course, always really exciting and always a lot of fun to watch. That's pretty much all I have for you today and today's episode of Pick and Pop. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Like I said, tune into some good games tonight. Raptors and Celtics, Spurs and Lakers, both on ESPN, of course. Plenty of baseball going on as well. And tomorrow, talk about basically the outcomes of tonight's games, take a further look at the playoff race, and specifically that race for the 1 seed, Raptors and Celtics tonight. If the Raptors win, that'll pretty much secure the 1 seed for Toronto. If the Celtics win, all they would need is to win out and have Toronto lose in simple terms, I believe. Just lose once, and I think the Celtics would have it. So we're getting at the stage of the season where each game is really, really important in determining how everything will shake out in the end. But that's all I have for today. It's been Peter Marzano with Pick and Pop. Thank you for tuning in.